Okay, in the last tutorial we looked at adding in the ability for a projectile. So when we basically hit the spacebar, this will go off. Now you'll notice these now I've slowed this type of enemy down to make it a little bit easier for me to test, right? And to do that, if you look at the Y velocity here underneath your enemies, this one was with me set at 100. I've now set it at 30 to make it a little bit easier to test, to make sure everything is working. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to create a collision. So a collision between the bullet and the enemy. So what we're going to do is go into the sprites option. We are going to scroll down a little bit and we're going to look at this overlap here. We're going to change a few settings here. So you can see it's got on sprite of kind player. Well, we're not hitting players, we're hitting enemies. Overlaps other sprite of kind, and then it's going to be a projectile. So basically if the enemy overlaps the projectile. Okay, so what we are then going to do is we are going to say, well, we want to destroy the enemy. So if I click back into my sprites, one of these here, look, is a destroy. So what we are going to do is it's going to say destroy my sprite. Now obviously it's giving me a little bit of a warning here and saying we haven't got a my sprite. No. So what we need to do is click here where it's got the sprite and just drag in and leave go. Now it's going to boot out whatever's in here, so I can just get rid of that very quickly. So it's basically saying destroy the sprite, and if I click on the plus here we can add a little effect as well. Now if we want to try that out, let's click on the play here and let's shoot something. Great. So you can see now it is destroying, which is great. Fantastic. And that seems to work fairly well. The downside you've got though, I don't know if you can see this, but my bullet is keeping on going and going and going. Now ideally what I want to happen is that when my bullet hits this sprite, I want the bullet to disappear. So what we need to do is add another option in here, look, where it's got sprites. We are going to go to destroy, and we can either use the other sprite here and just drag that in, or what I can do is I can change this here to be the projectile. Okay, so I can basically say destroy the projectile as well. Okay, so that is essentially how you get that working. Now I'm going to just advance this a little bit more, and we're going to add in the ability to score. So basically if I hit one of my normal enemies, I'm going to add 1 point, and if I hit one of the fast enemies, I'm going to add 5 points. And to do that we're going to use the if statement. So I need to basically say if the bullet hits the enemy, then we're going to add 1 point, otherwise we're going to add 5 if it's the different type of enemy. So if I click on my logic and I'm going to use an if statement, which is here, and there's a few ways we can do this. Normally I do an if then else, but I'm just going to use 2 if statements for this, right? So I'm going to say if, and you see it's got true there, so we're going to get rid of that in a moment. I'm going to go back to my logic and I'm going to choose this option here, the one with the equal sign. Now notice which one I'm looking at. I'm looking at this one here with equals, not this one here with the 2 zeros in it. Okay, this one's got almost like 2 speech bubbles. So I'm going to click on that one and drag it in here. And what we're going to basically say is if the sprite is equal to enemy 1. So watch this again. I'm going to click up here, my sprite here, drop that in. And what we're going to say then is this the same as enemy 1? Now don't worry if this comes up with a warning, it'll go in a moment. I'm going to click my variables and I'm going to drag enemy 1 in here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add in a score. Notice the exclamation mark there has disappeared. So if I go into my info, and you can see then I got change score by 1. And I can put that in. Now I'm going to use another if statement. Now if I go back into my logic and I use another if statement, and we're going to do the same thing, we're going to add this comparator in. So if I get this here, and we're going to add the sprite in again, so click the sprite there, and we're going to say if it's equal to enemy 2, we're going to change the score and we're going to add say 5 points in. So it's going to be obviously it's a harder enemy to hit, there's less of them, so we want to give more points. Now let's just try that out for a moment. So let's play this game and let's have a look. So that's 6 points. This should be the 7th, 8th, and then that should take us up to 13. Lovely. So you can see now we've got our enemies working quite well, and the score counter's working. Everything else still works as well because the health is still there as well. I'm just going to stop this for a moment. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is add in this new collision detection block. Don't forget to change this to kind enemy with projectile being the sprite. You are going to need to drag in a destroy element and then essentially set that to the sprite. You're then going to destroy the projectile and then add in two if statements and obviously put in the equal, the comparator there. Okay, so please pause the video now and add in your little extra there.